Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning. Today our topic is linked genes. So today we will discuss what are the different kinds of genes. And first of all, when we talk about linked genes, so there are some genes which are linked because they are on the same chromosome. So we can say that some genes are linked because they are on the same chromosome. That is why they are called the linked genes. A chromosome is basically a set of linked genes. Remember, always remember, offspring get one copy of each chromosome from each parent. Chromosomes basically they assort independently as per the law of independent assortment and not individual genes. So, and we can conclude that crossing over during meiosis can unlink the genes. So when we talk about autosomal genes versus sex-linked, so we need to understand there are some few concepts. So basically, we must remember traits are can be either autosomal or sex-linked chromosome. Whether so traits can be either autosomal chromosomes or sex-linked chromosomes. So when you talk about autosomal chromosomes, so it means traits or genes that are located on the non-sex chromosome. They are called the autosomal chromosome, and those are called the sex-linked chromosomes. Traits which are genes located on the same sex chromosome. They are called the sex-linked chromosomes. So sex chromosome basically determine gender X and Y. XX is gender genotype for the females and XY genotype for the males. Mainly sex-linked traits are carried on X chromosome. So if we look at the human karyotype, so we can see that in this picture human chromosomes with the 22 autosome chromosomes and there are two sex chromosomes. So in this diagram we can see the last one is marking for the female X and Y chromosomes. So when you talk about examples of autosomal traits, so here are the few examples. Autosomal, so one is called autosomal dominant. So here is the example of the Huntington's disease, achondroplasia, that is dwarfism. So this is the disease where there is a less height as compared to general height. Second example is osteoporosis. So in case of autosomal dominant traits, so one is the osteoporosis, the other is dwarfism. Then is autosomal recessive. So here is a cystic fibrosis and sickle cell anemia. So example of sex-linked traits, we can see X-linked recessive traits, color blindness, hemophilia, and DMD. These are the good examples of the sex X-linked recessive traits. And then is also Y-linked recessive traits. Here is the example is here, here. So in this diagram, in this picture, we can see there are various tests for the color blindness people. So in this diagram, we can see on the upper first hand picture, we can see that number is 58. In the same way, in that picture, upper top right is picture 18, and then is the on the lower left side bottom picture is showing the E alphabet. And then again, we can see on the right side there is another picture showing the number. So we need to understand, and this is basically test for the color blindness, various tests. This is another diagram representing the X chromosomes and Y chromosomes. If we see at the X chromosome, we can see starting from the top is A, B, C, and then different colors and different traits. So in the same way as Y chromosomes, so ABC part is section is missing in the Y. So we can say that Y chromosome is missing this section of the X chromosome, the lower sections of both chromosomes contain the genes for the same traits. So what does this means? So it means that males have only one X chromosome, so all X-linked alleles are expressed in males, even if the trait is recessive. So that is why we can see that males exhibit some traits more frequently than the females. X-linked traits are passed from mother to son, and Y-linked traits are passed from father to son. So we conclude that X-linked traits are passed from mother to son, and Y-linked traits are passed from father to son. So here we can see there are different kinds of disorders in these pictures. In these pictures, this is another. We can see different fingers and different disorders. So we can conclude here that only expressed in individuals that have two copies of relevant gene more frequent when in inbreeding isolated groups. Expressed even if only one copy of the gene is inherited. It effects sometimes show up later in life. Associated with genes on the X chromosomes. So no, there are different techniques and there are different cuttings level. One is that the deletions involved, and then is duplication of genes, inversions, and translocations. So we can say extra or missing chromosomes involved here. And when we talk about sex linked traits, here is a good example of in fruit flies, that is eye color in fruit flies. In these sex chromosomes, so there is a cross in fruit fly eye color. On the left side, we can see XX chromosome, that is a female, XY chromosome is a male. So when we talk about sex linked trait, so here is a problem. What is the problem? Example is that eye color in fruit flies. So here there is a cross of red-eyed male with a white-eyed female. So it represents X capital R Y into cross X small r, X small r. So remember the Y chromosome in males does not carry an allele for the trait. So capital R is showing the red-eyed, capital R small r is equal to red-eyed, and small r white-eyed, capital X Y is equal to male, X and X is equal to female. So once there is a cross of X and Y and X, X, R, so here is the solution of the sex-linked trait. So we can see here in this cross, there are 50% red-eyed female and 50% white-eyed male. Sex-linked traits. The expression of certain genes which are carried on the regular body chromosomes of animals also affected by the sex of the animal. The sex of animal may determine whether a gene is dominant or recessive. So example is occurs in polled European cattle. So when we talk about sex-linked traits, so in poultry, the male has a dominant genotype XX, while the female has a genotype capital X and small y, small w. An example of sex-linked trait in poultry is the barring of the barred Plymouth Rock chickens. So when we talk about sex-linked traits, so here we can see in this picture, if the barred hens are mated to non-barred males, all of the barred chicks from this cross are males, and the non-barred chicks are the females. In sex-linked inheritance, we can say example is tortoise shell color in cats, mixture of color that appears in patches, like we can see here the in cats orange, white, black, grey, tabby, much white called the calico, always female, almost we can say here. And locus for the orange color occurs on the X chromosomes. So when we talk about sex-linked inheritance regarding the males and females, so here we can see capital Y, capital O, capital O. Capital O represent the orange color and the small o non-orange. So in the females we can see here tortoise shell, capital O, small a, and non for non-arranged is capital O, small o. So here there is a sexual inheritance showing in males and females. So when we talk about sex-influenced inheritance, so there are modes of gene expression differ between males and females. So an allele may be exposed as a dominant in one sex and recessive in the other. So we can see here, I will show you some diagram in the next slides. Scars on the cattle is a sex-influenced inheritance. The alleles for the scars is dominant in males and recessive in females. A male with one copy will be scarred, but a female must have two copies. So we can see here's the example of the cattle. So we can see the genotypes on the left side, and then in the second section is male, and then the third row is for the female. So we can see here the genotypes regarding males and females. First three ones are the bold ones, and then the fourth and fifth is scars with the voles, and the last three we can say last two we can say horned. So this is the we can see here. So when we talk about traits, it means basically traits are different natures, maybe polygenic traits. So these are affected with many genes with no gene having an occurring influence. So basically these traits are affected with the growth rate, milk production, these factors. So typically we can say whether it is quantitative or continuous in expression, phenotypes are usually described by numbers like weaning weights, milk yield. So we can conclude from here that these characteristics, whether it is related with the growth rate or milk production in cattle, in plants or animals, but we're talking here regarding the animals. So these are affected by the environment. In the same way, when you talk about phenotypes, weaning weights, milk yield, so these are affected by the environment. So we can conclude that these factors regarding growth rate, milk production, milk yield are greatly influenced by the environment. So what are the factors regarding the environment? Lack of feeding. If we are not providing proper environment, like whether too much heat or too much cold, so it will create stress for the animal. And once there is a stress for the animal, whether due to heat or cold or due to lack of feeding, so what will happen? Their growth rate, their milk production, their growth regarding the weight gain will be affected. So always remember traits or the polygenic, having polygenic traits, characteristics. So these are also affected due to genetics as well as due to the environment. So if we are not providing proper environment, if we are not providing, so what will happen? So the growth rate, milk yield, weaning weights all will be affected. So now what is the more important when we talk about these traits? So polygenic traits are more important, whether it is the growth rate, fertility, milk production. So these traits determine productivity and the profitability. Always remember when we talk about the animals and the plants, and especially for the animals. So if there is no proper growth rate, if there is no fertility, and if there is no proper milk production, so these are the polygenic traits, and these determine the productivity and the profitability of the animals. But some markets are sensitive to simply inherited traits. For example, coats, feather color, pole, genetic defects are usually simply inherited. So we can conclude here that polygenic traits are important, and these are related with the growth rate, fertility, milk production, and traits that determine these traits determine the productivity and profitability of the animals. Yes, but there are certain markets which are also related with the coat, feather color, pole, genetic defects as well as. So this is all about the linked traits. So linked genes, and there are some terminologies we have used here. So, dear students, if there are any question, please feel free to ask me regarding the linked genes, and there are some different terminology we have used covered in these slides. Thank you very much.